Here's a money philosophy that's way more intricate than it seems. You've all heard the phrase, spend less money than you make, but it's hard to understand how truly powerful this concept is. Think of your life as an ecosystem. It's full of work, relationships, activities, eating, sleeping, sexy times, driving, medical insurance, life, and your ecosystem can either grow or shrink. Growing makes you happy, shrinking makes you sad. You don't want the same sex tomorrow, you want better sex. You don't want worse food tomorrow, you want better food. A steady increase in the quality of life sends signals to our brain that we're moving in the right direction. And the more capable we feel of increasing our quality of life, the more empowered we feel. So if our increase in quality of life is limited by our ability to spend, we feel terrible, because becoming better feels outside the bounds of our day-to-day life. So our ability to spend has to increase faster than our quality of life. More in part 2. Your income and investments should exist outside this ecosystem of life in a wider circle. If your expenses are less than your income, then your ability to expand as a person is more present and real in your life. This is extremely difficult to achieve because to do this, you have to voluntarily limit your spending. You have to voluntarily limit yourself. But limiting yourself by choice is empowering, and feeling limited by your situation is disempowering. And as difficult and uncomfortable as it is to decide you won't spend all your money, it's way less painful than when you spend all of your money and the world tells you that you still can't afford everything you wanted. Creating your own financial boundaries by choice is less painful than running into the real ones. If you voluntarily limit your use of resources so that you always have a little extra, then you will always feel more capable, free, and powerful than you would otherwise, which can lead you to start living a life beyond your imagination. More in part 3. When you start living inside an ecosystem that costs less money to maintain than you make, when your day-to-day life costs less than the money you bring in, you're generally much more content. But what's more than that is you're more empowered, clear-headed, and capable. You can start to see the world through a lens of opportunity, choice, and growth instead of fear and limitation. If you expand your financial capability at a faster pace than your overall life expenses, then your ability to choose expands with it. Because we don't just want to grow, we want to know we can grow. And financial resources that aren't being used for expenses can be leveraged to create more wealth faster, which means that your outer financial circle can begin to accelerate. At which point your inner circle can start to accelerate too, as long as it's always at a slightly slower rate of acceleration than the outer circle. This is how life can get really good really fast. It takes time and intense effort to get started saving, investing, and consciously limiting your expenses while increasing income. But over time, the results are beyond anything you can imagine. More in part 4. I want to emphasize that you have to be happy within the circle of limitations that you set up for yourself. Maybe not content, but you have to set it up in such a way that you enjoy it. And I say that the results are beyond what you can imagine because if you aren't currently doing this, if you're currently feeling limited by the world around you and you're living in a state of restriction and worry, you literally can't imagine your best life. Your brain's not capable of it. And it's not because you're stupid, it's because you're brilliant. You're living in a life where your options are limited and you don't have control over them. So your brain, the magical machine that it is living up to that reality. It's not thinking of all the cool shit you could do because your brain knows it's not an option. But if you shift reality and choose to limit yourself so that instead of chasing options and taking everything you can until you hit a wall, you're actually deciding not to take certain options, now you're living in a world of abundance where you have the ability to decide what happens next. And once your mind realizes that you get to decide what happens next, it will start to come up with better ideas. Because now you're a god.